She called him an imbecile, a nobody, and demanded he clean her shoe. What she didn't know was that the janitor she was humiliating secretly owned the entire skyscraper, and tonight her lease was due for a review. The hiss of my spray bottle was the loudest sound in the lobby of the Apex Tower. It was 11 p.m., and the building had settled into its nightly slumber. The daytime cacophony of ringing phones, urgent footsteps, and high-powered negotiations had been replaced by the quiet hum of the ventilation system and the rhythmic squeak of my mop against the polished marble. I loved this time of night. It was when the building felt like it was truly mine. In a way, it was. My name is Mo. At least that's the name on the simple gray jumpsuit I wear. To the handful of late-night workers and the morning security shift, I'm just the janitor. A quiet, unassuming man who keeps his head down, empties their trash, and ensures the floors gleam so brightly you can see your own tired reflection. They don't know that under my work glove, I wear a Patek Philippe watch, the same model my father wore when he laid the first cornerstone of this very building. They don't know that my real name is Marcus Thorne, and I own every last brick and pane of glass in this 50-story skyscraper. My father taught me that you can't truly understand a business until you've worked in every corner of it. You can't command the ship, he'd say, if you've never swabbed the deck. So for 1 month every year, I trade my tailored suits for a janitor's uniform. I listen to the whispers in the hallways. I see who treats the invisible people with respect, and I learn the real pulse of the empire I inherited. It was a lesson in humility, and a masterclass in human nature. Tonight's lesson was about to begin. I heard her before I saw her, the sharp, aggressive click-clack of stilettos on marble, echoing through the cavernous lobby like gunshots. It was a sound I'd come to recognize. Clarissa Sterling, CEO of Sterling Branding, a tenant on the 48th floor. She carried herself like a queen surveying a kingdom of peasants. Her outfits were always impeccable, her hair styled without a single strand out of place, and her face permanently fixed in a mask of disdainful impatience. I had just finished a section of the floor, the water still glistening under the recessed lighting. My bright yellow, wet floor sign was positioned prominently, a silent plastic sentinel. Anyone paying a sliver of attention would have seen it. Clarissa was not paying attention. Her phone was pressed to her ear, and she was striding through the lobby, her voice sharp and cold. "No, I don't care what their offer is. You tell them my price is non-negotiable. If they balk, they can find another agency to make them look mediocre." She veered right, completely ignoring my sign, her gaze locked on the exit. Her heel hit the wet patch. It wasn't a dramatic, flailing slip. Just a slight skid, a momentary loss of balance that forced her to take an awkward, stumbling step to correct herself. Her phone clattered from her hand, skidding across the wet floor and stopping just short of my bucket. Silence. The hum of the building seemed to hold its breath. She looked from her phone on the floor to her ridiculously expensive shoe, and then her eyes, cold as ice chips, finally landed on me. "You," she hissed, the word dripping with venom. "You absolute imbecile." I kept my expression neutral, my hands resting on the handle of my mop. "Ma'am, the sign is right there. The floor is wet." "A sign?" she scoffed, taking a step toward me, deliberately planting her heel on the dry part of the floor. "I am closing a 7-figure deal, and you expect me to look for your pathetic little sign? Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost?" She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at her feet. "This is Christian Louboutin. It costs more than you make in a month, more than your entire pathetic life is probably worth." My jaw tightened. I felt the familiar heat rise in my chest, the one my father warned me to control. I was Mo, the janitor. I had to remember that. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am." "Inconvenience?" She laughed, a sound with no warmth in it. "You could have injured me. You people are all the same, clumsy, incompetent, and always in the way." You people. There it was, the casual, dismissive venom that separated the world into her, and everyone else beneath her. My grip on the mop handle tightened until my knuckles were white. The Patek Philippe dug into my wrist under the glove, a cold reminder of who I really was. She snatched her phone off the floor, inspecting it for scratches with a sneer. "This is unacceptable. I am a paying tenant in this building. I pay for luxury, for professionalism, not for this filth. Her eyes raked over my simple uniform, my worn work boots. She wasn't just insulting my work. She was insulting my very existence. I will have your job for this, she declared, her voice rising in volume, echoing in the empty space. I am going to call building management right now, and I will not rest until I see you thrown out on the street where you belong. She didn't hesitate. She immediately pulled up her contacts, her thumb stabbing at the screen. I watched her, my heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm. I could end this right now. I could take off my glove, show her my watch, tell her my name. But that wasn't the plan. The plan was to observe, to learn. And I was learning a great deal about Clarissa Sterling. Her call connected. "Yes, Henderson, it's Clarissa Sterling," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, like poison coated in honey. She shot a triumphant, cruel smirk directly at me. "I'm in the main lobby. There's been an incident with one of your cleaning staff. Utterly unprofessional. A complete hazard." I stood perfectly still, my face a blank mask. Mr. Henderson was my building manager, a good man I'd known for 15 years. A man who reported directly to me. Clarissa continued, her voice sharp again. "Yes, the janitor on duty. The black one. I want him fired. Not tomorrow, not in an hour. I want him gone. Now." Her vicious words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. "I want him gone. Now." The way she said, "the black one," was like spitting out something foul. It wasn't just a description. It was a condemnation, a dismissal of my entire identity into a single, contemptuous phrase. I could feel the blood pounding in my temples, a slow, hot drumbeat of rage, but my face remained a stone mask. Mo, the janitor, doesn't get angry. He gets fired. Clarissa ended the call with a satisfied snap of her phone case. She turned her full attention back to me, her lips curled into a smirk of pure, unadulterated triumph. "Well, that's that," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Mr. Henderson is on his way down. He was very apologetic, you know, for your incompetence. He'll be here any minute to personally escort you from the premises." She took a slow, deliberate step closer, invading my personal space. She smelled of expensive perfume and something sour. "You know, for a moment there, I thought you had some fight in you. The way you were gripping that mop," she gestured vaguely with a flick of her wrist. "But you're just like the rest. All you have is that dumb, blank stare. No ambition, no drive. Just mopping." Every instinct screamed at me to erupt, to strip away the disguise and unleash the full weight of my identity on her, to watch her perfect, arrogant world crumble into dust. But my father's voice echoed in my mind, a calm and steadying presence. "Patience, Marcus. Anger is a storm. It passes, but the damage it leaves behind can be permanent. A true leader observes the storm. He doesn't become it." And so I observed. I watched this woman, this CEO who paid a fortune for an office with a view, reveal the ugliness that no amount of money could hide. This wasn't just about a wet floor anymore. This was about power. She needed to feel powerful by making me feel powerless. "Before you're officially garbage," she said, a new, cruel idea lighting up her eyes, "you can make yourself useful one last time." She pointed down at her Louboutin, where a tiny scuff mark now marred the patent leather from its skid across the floor. "My shoe. Clean it." I looked from her shoe to her face. The demand was so brazen, so demeaning, it was almost laughable. She actually expected me to kneel on the floor I had just cleaned and wipe the shoe of the woman who was trying to ruin my life, or the life she thought I had. I gave a slow, deliberate shake of my head. "No, ma'am." The smirk vanished from her face, replaced by a look of sheer disbelief. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no," I repeated, my voice quiet, but firm. "That is not part of my job." Her face flushed a blotchy, furious red. "Not part of your job? Your job is whatever I say it is until Henderson throws you into the street. You are nothing. A servant, and servants obey." She took another step, jabbing her finger towards my chest. "You will get on your knees and you will clean my shoe, or I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will personally call every cleaning service on my contact list, and—" Ding. The sound of the elevator arriving cut her off. The polished steel doors slid open, revealing a flustered-looking Gerald Henderson, the building manager. Henderson was a man in his late 50s, always impeccably dressed in a suit, his graying hair perfectly parted. He was a loyal employee, a good man who had worked for my family for 20 years. And right now, he looked like he wanted the marble floor to swallow him whole. His eyes darted from Clarissa's furious face to me, standing silently with my mop. I saw the flicker of panic in his gaze as he saw me, his boss, dressed in a janitor's jumpsuit. He quickly composed himself, but the tremor of fear was there. "Miss Sterling," he began, his voice strained with false calm. "I came as soon as you called. What seems to be the trouble?" "The trouble, Henderson," she snapped, pointing a trembling finger at me, "is this incompetent moron. He nearly made me fall. He's insubordinate, and his presence is fouling the very air in my building. I want him fired, and I want him gone. Now. Get his keys, his badge, whatever pathetic credentials he has, and get him out of my sight." Henderson swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He was in an impossible position. He turned to me, his eyes pleading for guidance, for some kind of sign. I gave him none. I kept my face impassive. I needed to see this through. I needed to see how far she would push. "Mo," Henderson said, his voice cracking slightly. He never called me Mo. It was always Mr. Thorne, even when I was in my disguise. The slip was a testament to his stress. "Miss Sterling has made a very serious complaint. I'm going to have to ask for your access card and your keys." Clarissa crossed her arms, a smug, victorious look returning to her face as she watched the scene unfold. This was her victory lap, the moment of my final humiliation. I looked past Henderson's terrified face, past Clarissa's gloating sneer, and into the reflection in the polished marble. I saw Mo, the janitor, a ghost in the machine, a man people looked through, not at. Slowly, deliberately, I let go of my mop. It clattered against the bucket, the sound echoing in the silent lobby. I met Clarissa's icy gaze, holding it. Then I reached into the front pocket of my gray jumpsuit. My fingers brushed against the cool plastic of my janitor's ID card, but they also brushed against something else, something heavy, cold, and metallic. A set of keys, not for the janitor's closet, but the master keys. The keys that could open every single door in the 50-story building that bore my family's name. My hand lingered in my pocket, the weight of the two sets of keys a stark contrast. One represented the life she saw, the other, the reality she was oblivious to. Clarissa watched, her expression a mixture of impatience and sadistic pleasure. Henderson looked like he was about to have a heart attack. His face was pale, and a thin sheen of sweat had broken out on his forehead. He knew exactly what keys were in my pocket, and he was praying I wouldn't use them. "Hurry it up," Clarissa sneered. "We don't have all night. Some of us have important business to attend to, unlike you." I drew my hand out of my pocket, but I didn't produce the janitor's access card. Instead, I let the master keys dangle from my index finger. The set was heavy, a complex collection of custom-cut steel and electronic fobs on a thick Patek Philippe-branded leather loop. They glittered under the lobby lights, a stark metallic declaration against the dull gray of my jumpsuit. They made a soft clinking sound in the cavernous silence. It was a sound that seemed to stop time. Clarissa's smug expression faltered. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. Those weren't the keys a janitor would carry. They looked expensive, important. Henderson visibly flinched, taking a small, involuntary step back. "What are those?" she demanded, her voice a little less certain now. "Playing games? Trying to be difficult? Give Henderson your ID card, you idiot." I ignored her. My eyes were locked on Henderson. I held the keys up slightly higher, letting them catch the light. It was a silent order. I saw the moment the recognition dawned on him, the moment he understood what I wanted him to do. His professional mask already cracking, shattered completely. He had a choice: play along with the charade and appease the powerful tenant, or obey the silent command of his actual boss. Henderson, to his credit, was a loyal man. He took a deep breath, visibly composing himself. His entire demeanor shifted. The flustered, apologetic manager was gone, replaced by the cool, efficient professional I knew him to be. "Miss Sterling," he said, his voice now steady and formal. He turned to face her fully, creating a subtle barrier between her and me. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding!" Clarissa shrieked, her voice echoing off the marble. "There is no misunderstanding. That man is a menace, and you are failing at your job, Henderson. Fire him, now, or I'll be having a word with your boss in the morning about your gross incompetence." This was the moment. The precipice. "Actually, Miss Sterling," I said, speaking for the first time since she'd made her demand. My voice was calm, even, and it was my own. Not the deferential mumble of Moe the janitor, but the measured, confident tone of Marcus Thorne. The sudden change made both of them turn to look at me. "Mr. Henderson won't be firing me. You see, he can't." Clarissa stared at me, her mouth slightly agape. "And why is that?" she asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Because you're part of some union. Don't be ridiculous." "No," I said, taking a slow step forward. I stopped beside Henderson, standing as his equal, because he works for me. The silence that followed was absolute. It was so complete I could hear the faint buzz of the overhead lights. Clarissa's face went through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, irritation, and then a dawning, horrified suspicion. Her eyes darted from my face to the expensive keys still dangling from my finger, then to Henderson's stony expression, and back to me. What did you say?" she stammered, the first crack appearing in her armor of arrogance. I enunciated each word clearly. "Gerald Henderson works for me, just like the security staff, the maintenance crew, and for the next 2 weeks the night shift janitor." I paused, letting the words sink in. "My name is Marcus Thorne, and this is my building." I watched the color drain from her face. It was a fascinating thing to observe. The mask of superiority didn't just crack. It disintegrated, turning to dust. The sneering, powerful CEO was replaced by a woman who looked small, confused, and utterly terrified. Her eyes, wide with shock, were locked on mine. She was finally seeing me. Not Moe, not the Black One, not a piece of furniture to be kicked. She was seeing the man who held the fate of her 7-figure-a-year lease in the palm of his hand. That's impossible," she whispered, shaking her head as if to ward off a bad dream. You're lying." "Am I, Henderson?" I asked, not taking my eyes off her. "No, sir, Mr. Thorne. You are not," Henderson replied, his voice ringing with conviction. Clarissa stumbled back a step, her Louboutin heel scraping against the marble floor. Her entire body was trembling. The phone in her hand looked heavy, useless. All the power she wielded minutes ago had evaporated into thin air. She was a queen without a kingdom, standing in the lobby of a man she had just told belonged in the street. "Now," I said, my voice dropping to a low, cold tone that held the promise of consequences. "We were discussing your lease renewal, weren't we, Miss Sterling? Sterling Branding, 48th floor. I was just reviewing the paperwork this morning." I took another step toward her, the master keys clinking softly. "And after tonight's incident, I find myself having to reconsider your tenancy." The word reconsider hung in the air between us like a guillotine. Clarissa Sterling's entire professional world, the one she had just been boasting about on the phone, teetered on the brink of collapse, and she knew it. The power dynamic had not just shifted, it had inverted with the force of an earthquake. Her face, now a waxy, pale mask of terror, was a far cry from the imperious queen of moments before. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice a reedy, desperate whisper. I had no idea. I am so sorry. It was a mistake, a terrible, terrible misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," I echoed, my voice devoid of warmth. I gestured to the spot on the floor where she had stood. "You called me an imbecile. You said my life was pathetic. You threatened to have me thrown out on the street. You referred to me as the Black One to my own building manager. And then you ordered me to kneel and clean your shoe. Tell me, Miss Sterling, which part of that was the misunderstanding?" Each accusation landed like a physical blow. She flinched with every word. There was no defense. She had been caught, red-handed, in an act of pure, unadulterated cruelty, and her only regret was that she had aimed it at the wrong target. "I was stressed," she stammered, grasping at straws. The deal. I wasn't thinking clearly. It's not who I am. Oh, I think it is exactly who you are, I countered, my voice dangerously soft. You see, for the last 3 years, I've spent 1 month working alongside the people who keep this tower running. The people you don't see. The ones who clean your offices after you leave, who fix the plumbing, who stand guard at the doors all night. I've heard the stories, Miss Sterling, about the CEO on 48 who treats the catering staff like servants, who screams at the maintenance workers for making noise, who leaves scathing, demeaning notes for the cleaning crew. Your behavior tonight wasn't an exception. It was a confirmation. Henderson stood silently by my side, his expression grim. He knew I was speaking the truth. We had reviewed the unusually high number of staff complaints originating from the 48th floor just last week. Clarissa opened her mouth, then closed it again. A tear traced a path through her expensive foundation. It was a tear of fear, not of remorse. Please, she begged, her voice breaking. My company. My entire life is in that office. We've been tenants for 6 years. Please don't do this. For 6 years, you have walked these halls and treated the people who work here as less than human, I said, my voice hardening. This building is more than just steel and glass to me, Miss Sterling. It's my father's legacy. It's a community. And you are a poison in that community. You don't just rent space here. You rent the privilege of being part of that community, and that privilege comes with a basic requirement of human decency. A requirement you have failed spectacularly to meet. I turned to Henderson. Henderson, please draft a notice of lease termination for Sterling Branding, effective immediately. Cite breach of the building's code of conduct. They will have 30 days to vacate the premises. No, Clarissa cried out, a raw, guttural sound of pure panic. You can't. It will ruin me. Consider it an expensive lesson on the true cost of your Louboutins, I said, my voice flat and final. You were right about one thing. They cost more than a janitor makes in a month. But a person's dignity? Your words tonight proved you have no idea what that is worth. And that is why you can no longer do business in my building. I turned my back on her then, a gesture of complete dismissal. Henderson, have security escort Miss Sterling to her car. She is no longer welcome in the lobby. Right away, Mr. Thorne, he said, nodding to the security guard who had been watching from a distance. As the guard approached, Clarissa Sterling, the once powerful CEO, seemed to shrink. All the fight was gone, replaced by the hollow shell of a woman who had just lost everything over a scuffed shoe and a mouthful of venom. She didn't say another word, simply allowed the guard to lead her away, her stiletto heels making a defeated, shuffling sound on the marble floor. I watched her go, the reflection in the polished floor showing a broken woman leaving a building she thought she was too good for. There was no triumph in it, only a profound sense of sadness. Sadness that people like her existed, moving through the world with so much wealth and so little humanity. When she was gone, I let out a long breath. I looked down at my grey jumpsuit, at the mop and bucket sitting silently nearby. Henderson walked back over to me, his expression a mixture of relief and awe. Are you all right, Mr. Thorne? He asked quietly. I nodded, picking up the mop. The plastic handle felt familiar, solid. I'm fine, Gerald. Just finishing my shift. He hesitated. Sir, you don't have to. No, I said, a small smile touching my lips for the first time that night. My father taught me to always finish a job you start. And with that, I went back to work. The hiss of my spray bottle, the rhythmic squeak of the mop against the marble, the quiet, peaceful sounds of the building that was truly mine, now a little cleaner in more ways than one. The lesson for the night was over, and I had a feeling the 48th floor would soon be occupied by someone who understood the value of a little respect.